Good morning, Americans. This is Tim with Op-Ed Daily, and I'd like to sit down and talk to you about a couple of things. Bear with me because I think what I have to say is fairly important, and I think you can appreciate the topic I'm about to discuss. First, I'm going to talk about loyalty, okay? And it's going to preface this loophole that Bernie Sanders was trying to close to save us $100 billion a year that we lose to greedy people dodging taxes. Obviously, the proposal was rejected by Republicans. But that leads me to a more important argument, which is loyalty. We we don't have loyalty like we used to, say in the 60s, 50s, 40s. There's just no loyalty here. And I want to tell you a little story about my childhood and why loyalty is a wonderful thing and how loyalty can transcend many other things. Because when I was a child, I lived, I lived all over, really. But I remember going to my aunt's house, and she lived near Peggs, Oklahoma. And between Locust Grove, Oklahoma, and Tahlequah, Oklahoma, there's this little bitty spot on the map called Peggs. Now, mind you, Peggs used to be a pretty large town, but it was completely and totally obliterated by a tornado. I think it was 95% loss. In fact, that tornado destroyed entire families, like ended those lines, those bloodlines, gone. It was a huge tornado. Anyway, that's beside the point. But it's a very small town, 100 to 200 people, I guess. Maybe slightly larger, maybe 500, but I doubt it's that high. And ever since I was a child, we would go to this little podunk store called Bobby's Mini-Mart. Now, Bobby's Mini-Mart was a crappy looking store. I mean, it looked like hell. And it still looks like hell today. You walk in it, and the owner would have just stuff just stacked everywhere, just random stuff. It was very disorganized. Um, it was more like a storage unit slash, convenience store. You could find everything you needed to in the convenience store. That was not an issue. But, along the walls, I mean, it was just a mess. But he had a little diner in there, little grill, hamburgers, chicken strips, chicken salads. Oh man, the chicken salads at that place was just amazing. That was, one of my some of my best memories was from that place. I didn't go over there and hang out, but uh, you go there and eat, and you just felt like you were part of a community. It was a community store. And even though this place just looked like hell, the owner was a very loyal person. Bobby was one of the nicest people I think I've ever met in my life, other than my brother. He he was trusting of people. Maybe some people took advantage of that, but to Bobby, I don't think he really cared. Um, I remember you could go, and they may not do this anymore, but you could go and charge money to an account with him and then pay it back whenever you could. He didn't put it in a computer. It wasn't computerized. It wasn't even organized very well. Organized chaos, I guess, is the best word for it. You just give him your name. I assume he probably only did it for people that he knew lived in the area. But he'd take your name down. You would charge, whatever to an account that, was just a piece of paper, basically. And then um, you would pay it back when you got the money. It was that simple. And people did it all the time. My aunt did it. My mom did it. My mom, she'd rack up $40, $50 worth of stuff there at this little convenience store, mostly diner items. And, I'd have to go over there and pick up the chicken salad that she'd get almost every day. And then when she got paid, she'd pay him back. And he didn't even ask for interest. He didn't charge you anything for charging. You just paid back what you owed him. And to me, it was just fabulous. It was fantastic because at that time, this be back in, just before 2000, because I graduated in 2000. So it'd be, 95 to 2000 is when I remember this, him allowing charges. And then nobody would do that. That was the only place in my life that I ever remember allowing those types of things. And people loved Bobby. He was just such a nice guy. Well, throughout my life, I had witnessed at least three other convenience stores pop up not a mile down the road. Nice convenience stores, big convenience stores with lots of stuff, and would offer other things, like tack stores, saddles, spurs, that sort of thing. And then they would go out of business, and then there's Bobby's just sitting there, just going on, and Bobby never he you'd look at that guy and you would think he was poor. And I think he was poor. I don't think he made much money off of that store. But he loved what he did. And he loved being, I think, in my mind, he loved being a pillar of that community. Because people looked up to Bobby. People appreciated Bobby. They appreciated him so much that they did not frequent these newer, nicer, more modernized convenience stores that would pop up in the area. And they would go out of business. But Bobby's still to this day is still going. Now, I think his daughter took over the business, but the store is still there. But I'll say that this huge, I mean, it's a huge place they built, and it was a log building, or at least I know it wasn't a veneer because they were real logs, but it was that type of log. It was, log look on the outside of probably a steel structure. And I mean, it was that place was so nice, and they had just about everything. They had this huge saddle store with country and western stuff, clothing. I mean, bait and tackle, you name it. These people had it. A deli, I mean, it was really really nice, this store, and it had a bunch of really updated, modernized gas pumps. And Bobby had two little bitty, just crappy looking gas pumps. I mean, you'd be afraid to use it. You'd think that they'd either overcharge you or undercharge you or whatever, but they wouldn't. And when that place came out, I thought to myself, damn, that's going to put Bobby out of business. It made me sad because I was like, there's no way he can compete with that. That place is just way too nice. And I mean, this place was massive. It was huge. And as the years go by, oddly enough, they had to shut down parts of the store. First, it was now you know what? It didn't even last. That side of the building didn't last long enough for me to even remember what was sold there. But it basically had three different parts. The western part, where you could buy tackle, and then it had the convenience store part with bait and stuff, and then it had, oh, I believe it was a laundromat. It may have been a laundromat. Anyway, they had to close that part down, and then they had to lease it to a restaurant, and then a Mexican restaurant came in there because, it was too much there. I guess they were spending too much money, so They brought in the restaurant. I assume that restaurant pays rent to those people that to offset the cost that it was costing them. And then there's Bobby's Mini Mart, just just as alive as could ever be. And that made me so happy. It made me so happy that I knew that there are people that hold loyalty up to such high regard that they would just ignore the other people in order to continue going back to this place. Because the other convenience store was cheaper than Bobby's Mini Mart. These people tried to open this place up, make this extremely nice building. I mean, they started from scratch. They built it brand new. Everything was brand new. And they tried to undercut everything that Bobby did so that they could steal all of Bobby's business. And the people in that town said, hell no. They didn't have to say it, though. They just did it. They continued to frequent Bobby's. They continued going there, continued going there, and continued going there. And he is still there. And he is still going strong. And that's been 20 years. Almost 20 years now. It just amazes me how that kind of loyalty transcends rationality. Because people in Pegs don't have a lot of money. Pegs is out in the middle of nowhere. And people that are there are, largely just the good old boy crowd. They get by with whatever they can get by with, and that's how they live life, and they seem to be fairly happy. But they were willing to spend more money to go to Bobby's Mini Mart than to go anywhere else because of loyalty. Loyalty and an appreciation for human decency. And the reason why I brought this story up and why it meant so much to me when I read this is because corporations have absolutely no loyalty in this country. And unfortunately, people are losing their loyalty towards other things in this country. You cannot put a price on loyalty. If you're loyal to your wife, there's a real good chance she's going to be the best damned wife you're ever going to find. If you're loyal to your dog, that dog's going to be loyal to you. If you're loyal to yourself, you will live a happy life. If you stay loyal and true to the things that you believe within reason, you will feel good about yourself. But we're losing that. And I think it started with companies. Because you can work at a company nowadays for 10, 20 years. Boom, shit can. Right at the worst time in your life, you will get the boot, and you will be gone, and you will be without a job, and you will be 40, 50, 60 years old without a job and without any prospects for the future. Because there is no loyalty. And then what makes it worse is that we have these Republican representatives that spin this lack of loyalty into, well, greed is good. Well, why should they be loyal to? They're not your daddy. They don't have to be loyal to you. They don't have to give you a job. It's your own personal responsibility to do whatever it takes to keep that job. And if you get fired, then it's your own fault. You must have not been working as hard as you could have. That'd be how they'd spin that one, even if it wasn't true. Because Republicans have no loyalty. Hell, they don't even have loyalty to their own religion. Because they may say, oh, we're Christians, we're all Christians, God bless America, blah, blah, blah. And then turn around and do something just completely and totally against what God would ever say was right. Like going around killing people. What happened to thou shalt not kill? Oh, I guess unless it's It's a dark-skinned guy with a turban on his head and a beard. That's okay, because he's a scary guy. So they don't even have loyalty to their religion. They have loyalty to each other, though, I will admit that. Republicans are pretty loyal to the Republican Party. And from what I can tell, they're extremely loyal to Israel, which is kind of surprising because Israel isn't loyal to anybody. But in terms of corporations, they have no loyalty. And this loophole is costing us $100 billion. And now I say corporations have no loyalty, but I should also say rich people, wealthy people have no loyalty. I found throughout research and historical events that extremely wealthy people that have the ambition of making the most amount of money that they can in their lifetime because that's somehow, I don't know, fun for them. They have no loyalty to anybody, not one person, only themselves and only to money. So they can cause depressions like the Rockefeller. They can cause recessions like Rockefeller. They can do all these horrible things and cause pain among millions of Americans just to serve their own purpose. And that's what we're seeing here. Republicans rejected this proposal to close a tax loophole. These people don't want to pay taxes. And Republicans will say, well, it's because taxes are too high. Like, how are taxes too high when they don't pay them? GE, for a few years in a row, was in hot water because, I believe they were actually getting money back from the government while turning record profits. And, I have a little philosophy on life here with this kind of thing, is that if you've made your millions in America and off of the backs of American workers, off the backs of American consumers, then you owe that country something. Or at least you should feel like you have an obligation to take care of those people to continue those kinds of profits. To build that loyalty with your consumer base. Because just like Bobby's Mini-Mart, loyalty will transcend everything else. If you have no loyalty, you will never be a Bobby's Mini-Mart. These companies will go down in flames because of themselves eventually. All it takes is that one company to show that loyalty still exists in this world. And that company will become extremely profitable and will become something that nobody can tear down, because that's what loyalty brings. If I found a company like that, I would be willing to spend more money because of that. A company that treats its employees like human beings will get my money every single time. A company that treats me like a human being, even if I go in there and I'm wearing ratty ass clothes, they will get my money every single time. I will pay for customer service over cheap stuff any day of the week, and I know that I am in the majority when it comes to that thought. I am willing to pay more to be treated the way that I feel that I should be treated as a consumer. And if you're a tax dodging corporation, that means you have absolutely no loyalty to anybody. And these Republicans have no loyalty to the people they represent, because if they did, they would close those loopholes in a heartbeat. Just like Sanders says, our Republican friends are not particularly interested in investments in America, and they are not. Because Sanders proposed closing this loophole to pay for infrastructure, which would create millions of jobs and could help balance the budget. But as Sanders said on the floor, their idea of dealing with the deficit is to cut, cut, cut. Of course, you got Mike Enzi over there, Senate Budget Chairman, and the accusations that Republicans don't care about infrastructure makes him upset. Oh, you poor little baby. He voted against Sanders' amendment saying infrastructure improvements are needed, but it would be wrong to prescribe how to pay for them when a different committee has jurisdiction over the issue. So because he feels that Bernie Sanders isn't on the right committee, Bernie Sanders doesn't get to say how that's paid for. Are you kidding me? We elected him, or at least the people in Vermont elected Bernie Sanders to do things like balance the damn budget. That's part of it. They get to vote on it. They get to propose these things. And for you to have the gall to say, well, you don't get to talk about it, Mr. Sanders, because you aren't on the right committee. You got to be kidding me. These people are like preschoolers or elementary students. Their little cliques, they get together. Well, I'm not going to let you do that because you're not in my group. You're not part of the cool crowd. You're one of those freak guys. That's what I see when I hear Mike Enzi saying this. What a loser. That guy has got some nerve. That's not right. That's not the way we do legislation around here. And then James Inhofe, and I'm from Oklahoma, and this guy is it's just too much, man. The people from Oklahoma have just, I don't know. He chairs the Environment and Public Works Committee. He called Sanders' measure a massive tax increase. Really? To close a tax loophole, meaning it's not law, it just wasn't covered in law. That's what a loophole is. There's no explicit statement saying, hey, you can do this, but apparently there's no explicit statement saying you can't, so they're going to just do it anyway. So instead of fixing that, they're going to say, well, if we close the loophole, that's a tax increase. No, it's called good policy. That's not increasing taxes. That is, well, I'm at a loss for what that is. That would just be sensible policy. So the measure proposed investing $478 billion over 6 years in improvements to deteriorating infrastructure, which includes roads, bridges, transit, airports, and waterways. It also addresses broadband infrastructure, electricity, and other things. These are things that we need. We can't cut these things out of our lives. We can't just say, oh, we don't need that anymore. We don't have to pay for that. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. We have to pay for that. That is a basic need for this country. Infrastructure. Infrastructure is the backbone of any nation. And without it, that nation is not very good, I'll just say. And besides that, the infrastructure that we built during Eisenhower's administration produced so many jobs. And there was so much economic activity based on those building that stuff. And we have let it go because Bill Clinton didn't want to do anything about it. George Bush Sr. didn't want to do anything about it. George Bush Jr., as I call him, W., he didn't want to do anything about it. And certainly Reagan didn't want to do anything about it. That'd be like your roof. Your roof should have been changed 30 years ago, but you're just, I think I'm gonna buy more beer this year. No, you have to. There are things that you just have to buy. You got to mow your yard. You got to fix your driveway. If your door breaks, you fix it. If the floor goes bad, you fix it. Same way with this stuff. These are things that you cannot go without. So Sanders had cited a 2013 report saying that we'd need to spend 1.6 trillion above current spending levels by 2020 in order to bring the country's infrastructure to a state of good repair. 1.6 trillion. And these Republicans aren't willing to close a loophole that allows these non-loyal companies to dodge taxes. I pay my taxes. I'm sure every single one of the people that are listening to this audio clip pays taxes. Every one of them. Because if you don't, you go to jail. If you avoid your taxes, you go to jail. If you avoid taxes, you go to jail. But not the rich people. They can avoid paying their taxes. Just send the money to a different country. Just shift some jobs around. Yeah, it's okay. They never said we couldn't do it, so it's all good. We're not going to go to jail. Of course, they never go to jail for anything like that. Because there's loyalty in money. That's it. They have loyalty to money. Republicans are loyal to money. And since the rich people have all the money, then that means they're loyal to rich people. Not loyal to anybody else. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about their neighbors. They only care about the people with money. Because guess what the people with money can do? That's right. They can donate to their campaigns next year to make sure that they get back in power so they can screw us some more. So the GOP's 10-year fiscal blueprint, which does not have the force of law, would balance the budget within a decade without raising taxes while increasing defense spending. Are you kidding me? They have this magic wand. They're like, "Hey guys, we're not going to raise any taxes. We're just going to pay for everything." No, they're not going to pay for everything. They're going to cut everything that's good and worth keeping in this country. They're going to cut it all. They're going to take your Social Security and they're going to privatize it. They're going to take Medicaid, Medicare, they're going to cut it out. They're going to take housing assistance, gone. Food stamps, gone. Education, if you can't afford to send your kid to school, well, guess what? Your kid doesn't go to school. They don't like education. They don't like public education. Why? Well, for one, they know that an educated population is probably not going to vote for Republicans. For two, they think that public education indoctrinates them to be Democrats. Believe